there's nobody more woke than
the new Proud Family.
Noah only dating white girls!
I do not understand anything about white fragility.
Slaves built this country. Black people can't be racist!
Do something with your white privilege!
No girls allowed.
I think she just called you a racist, Penny.
I've done a few videos on this channel about the Proud Family reboot, and you know that thing I say at the end of most videos about reading all your comments? Well, thank you MechaJ3358 for your comment that inspired me to make this video, and thank you to all the other commenters referencing the original Proud Family too for reminding me to get on with it. Let's try to answer it once and for all, with episodes on the same social issues from the original show and the Louder and Prouder reboot directly compared against each other. Was the original show really better? To start with, let's compare She's Got Game from the original show and the two-part special Old Town Road, which both deal with misogyny.
Women.
In She's Got Game, Penny wants to join her school's American football team, but the only team there happens to be all boys. She faces opposition from the other boys despite her clear athleticism, from the coach who doesn't want a girl on his team.
Yeah, you're right, sugar. You got spunk. I like that. Now go home and bake a cake.
And even from her dad, Oscar, who's afraid to see Penny hurt.
Girls got game.
No, the girl's got girl game. And she'll be crying like one as soon as she gets hit.
Ultimately, Zoe's lawyer aunt wins the case to force the coach to allow Penny to play on the team. She does amazingly, but is ultimately let down by one teammate not listening to strategy.
Hey, she's catching it.
Well, guess what? Everybody knows that, so throw it to me. I'll be wide open.
You know what? Just throw it to him, Omar.
The episode ends with an apology from the boy who's been giving her flack the whole time, and that's pretty much it. She had her shot, it went well for a bit, and then fell apart through no fault of her own.
Let it out. All good players cry.
But I could have won the game!
And she'll be crying like one as soon as she gets hit.
In Old Town Road, the Proud Family learns of Sugar Mama's ancestry, and that she has living family that she's gone no contact with. At Trudy's insistence, and despite Sugar Mama's protests, they all go to meet this family. I made a video on this one already, so I'll be brief, but the comparison to She's Got Game is that Sugar Mama is an incredible rodeo athlete, and is shut out of all competition because she's female. But maybe. When she steps in to save Oscar at a rodeo, however, her somehow still alive father sees the error of his ways and supports Sugar Mama and her talent at long last. The reboot and the OG obviously have a theme in common.
You're not gonna be in the rodeo, little bitch. No girls allowed.
A girl can do anything a boy can.
Except play football. Peace out.
But they go in different directions here. The original show has one person in particular stick to his guns in being sexist almost to the end, although multiple people are sexist in different ways to Penny throughout, and the reboot had all the men in Sugar Mama's family dismissing, belittling, and being intimidated by her in some kind of way. I think both are completely valid directions to go in, but I like the way the original handled this better. It felt less like a weird conspiracy against one person. The OG show also uses common, well-intentioned sexist comments.
Really? Honey, football is a rough sport. You could get hurt.
Which makes it feel a bit more real and engaging, especially seeing as sometimes these well-intentioned comments aren't necessarily sexist and could be said to a male counterpart too. You can be concerned about a kid's safety without it being a sexism thing.
I'm telling you, you're wasting your time. There's no way a judge is gonna let my baby girl, yes, I said baby girl, play boys football.
And you can sensibly factor in a kid's sex when it comes to how safe they're going to be in a given situation, because sex is real and it does make a difference to what you face in life. But only being concerned about a kid's safety because you view their sex as inherently fragile or somehow lesser is sexist, whether you meant it consciously or not. That's briefly touched on. Sometimes the difference between I'm worried about you because women are weak and I'm worried about you because X is a specific problem women, like you, are going to face can be a blurry distinction from the outside looking in. The reboot also does better here in terms of realism, in that a woman physically facing off against men in brute strength athletic contexts is categorically a bad idea. You can point to all the individual exceptions in the world, but sexual dimorphism is still real, and sometimes it's as simple as just common sense. The focus when it comes to the girl or woman being discriminated against in both episodes is her stunning competence.
This is unbelievable! The old lady in the pink bathrobe and slippers is staying on volcano for 8 seconds!
And I think the Town Family Rodeo might be a better example of that. Penny in the original show is just fast, which is great.
Hey, Frankie! What's wrong with you? Can't you handle it, Spock?
Yeah, Frankie, can't you handle
Spock.
Realistically though, she'd get absolutely bodied by her much bigger male classmates. Speaking as someone who did co-ed martial arts growing up, being faster and smaller is absolutely an enormous advantage sometimes, with fighting styles like Wing Chun being designed around that. But if you as an average female are utterly pinned by an average male opponent, you just can't brute force your way out. Penny would still be in that hole. Show would have ended there. Speaking of sex differences though, one that wasn't explicitly highlighted by the characters was the way the sports announcer refers to Penny, and only Penny.
In career of that perky Penny Proud, I do claim it. The bouncy brunette is slipping back to the huddle.
Call the police.
She's spunky, a bouncing brunette. All these words you'd never hear directed towards a male counterpart. I personally find this sheer level of unequal use of language condescending in real life when it does crop up, but even if you don't take offense, the fact that it's only directed towards the one female player on the team is a microcosm of a real phenomenon. I'm a bit split on how these two episodes compare. The reboot was more of a visual spectacle and just a pleasure to look at, but it wasn't consistent. Sugar Mama's dad had zero reaction to other women competing in the rodeo, and him not having motivations beyond bad man nasty to main character took a lot out of him as an antagonist. The OG Proud family had comprehensible motivations behind the quote-unquote bigotry, whatever you want to call it, which made it more impactful and more relatable. The coach was resistant to seeing his beloved team potentially change. Oscar was really worried for his child. Frankie was intimidated and jealous of Penny's ability. Penny's repeated competence changed minds, even though she lost, which I think is a really good way to end an episode that otherwise had her acting like an absolute superhuman. I don't think either was great, but if I had to pick which was best, I'm going with the original show. In the original show episode, Who You Calling a Sissy?, Michael is insulted after besting some classmates on the field, being called a sissy.
Dang, I can't believe we lost to a sissy.
He doesn't seem to care though. Neither does La Cienega really, who, instead of caring about her friend or being grateful that Michael is not only taking her to the dance, but also making her dream dress for it. No. She's embarrassed to be associated with this sissy as the bullying continues.
Well, now I guess you know how it feels to be trashed.
Don't you fucking dare talk to me like that, you c***!
At least she gets roasted for it. It all comes to a head though when Michael is revealed to have been shape-shifting into a vicious monster, exacting revenge on his bullies by calling them the same kind of names. It takes Penny's support at the dance to talk him down. In the reboot episode Raging Bully, La Cienega is preparing for her quinceañera. She gets quite neurotic about being upstaged or it not going exactly the way she Are those sleep heels? So when her freak yodeling cousin turns up looking slender, something La Cienega probably prizes, the one thing she has over La Brea, she...
Cousin Lassie!
You're judgment!
This really doesn't help her case when it comes to her friend group fawning over La Brea instead of her. La Brea is fun, has cool ideas, and is chill. She even apologizes for hurting La Cienega's feelings.
I'm sorry, Prima. I was just trying to help.
Okay, you heard Bossy Lossy. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Meanwhile, Melrose is throwing constant shade at Sunset for being poor. It's a mirror of what's going on between La Brea and La Cienega. La Brea goes off the deep end though, literally launching La Cienega into the sky.
Well, she's dead.
To ruin her big entrance. In front of Foxy Love, too.
Good evening, Suze. Can I offer you a proud egg roll?
This brings a lot of things to light at long last, and eventually everyone involved brings their beefs to the surface and reconciles. Although both episodes are about dealing with bullying in a healthy way on the surface, the original show and the reboot make two very different points about repressed emotions with regards to being bullied. The OG sends the message that you shouldn't bottle up your emotions to the point that they overwhelm you.
Is there anything bothering you?
Shoes.
Michael So Tucky called you a sissy in front of all your friends and you didn't do anything. Why?
Shoes.
I'm sick.
Shoes. I already forgot about shoes. Besides, shoes.
And the reboot is more focused on not letting your bottled up emotions overwhelm your relationships. The reboot felt a bit confused towards the end though, like they were about to have La Brea be actually unequivocally nasty, but then at the last minute they didn't want you to feel bad about the two reconciling, so had La Cienega also be nasty.
That's mine, La Bea!
She's dead.
But that makes it all fall a bit flat. This is our only representation of how things got this bad between the cousins, and it's just La Brea retaliating to La Cienega being her typical horrible self. Sure, you don't have to be a perfect person to still be a victim of maltreatment, and that's really important to be aware of, but it felt like we were missing a scene showing La Brea clearly taking things way too far in the past. Not that this is excusable behavior, obviously. The original show had Michael be nice, normal, just himself, like nothing he did could possibly have warranted this. The lesson in the original show, however, was also a bit confused, but in a different way. It was more perhaps unintentionally mixed than in the reboot. It was a bit like, don't bottle up your anger because it will bring out the worst in you and solve nothing. But also, bullies will step off if you can just dominate them. Penny was also a really good friend, on a side note, in Who You Callin' a Sissy. The best, and very mature for someone her age.
You've been used, abused, and refused. You're a chump to let people dump on you like that. Okay, I'm doing it too.
She pushes Michael to let out his emotions on multiple occasions, but after a point, she stops trying to force the issue, even though she doesn't fully believe him when he says he's fine, which of course he isn't. I really enjoyed seeing the resolution of the reboot episode though, where years-long resentment finally reaches a boiling point and is then resolved. Melrose isn't actually living a nice life.
Ever since the divorce, I've just been really stressed and taking it out on everyone. I guess what I'm trying to say is I wish we could be like we used to be.
She was just trying to tear down her sister, and La Brea was jealous of the closeness between La Cienega and her mother.
I didn't want to be mean! I was jealous of you and Thea Sunset's perfect relationship! You're perfect friends! You're perfect quinceañera! What do you mean perfect?
It seems clear to me as well that Sunset isn't taking forgiveness lightly, is grappling a bit with it, and Melrose is a bit hasty to be offered forgiveness, which is also very real. I wouldn't be surprised if this was written with some of the writer's personal experiences as inspiration. This stands in stark contrast to the violent comeuppance faced by the bullies in the original. This is another case where I don't think the reboot or original made perfect episodes on this topic, but I picked the original show on this one.
That's not funny.
The heartfelt reconciliation at the end of Raging Bully made that a bit of a tough choice though. The original show episode, A Star is Scorned, has Penny and her friends showcasing their musical talent, with totally different voices to how they usually speak. Giving me Vacky vibes.
Looks like you had a busy day.
But Penny is the main attraction, and she quickly starts developing an ego over it.
I'm better than you!
Soon enough, Wiz Kelly, having signed the group as a collective for a record label, acts as Michael the choreographer and Sticky. Penny's friends are fine with this, until it's them on the chopping block too.
Why don't you just drop the LDZ and call the group PP?
Penny adopts the stage name
Panay. Like the spaghetti, y'all.
And is loving the limelight. But her friends are loving being out of the spotlight and out of the lucrative record deal a bit less though. But they can't seem to sabotage Penny's stardom. Sorry, Panay's stardom. It isn't until she's doing a production based on her rise to fame that the guilt about shutting out her friends really reaches a tipping point.
But we've been best friends forever. Well, forever ends today, Mustard.
Ultimately, Penny decides that fame just isn't worth it. She gives up her money, fame, and future in music to be with them again. The reboot takes a more modern approach in Bad Influencer. Penny's friends are starstruck by an influencer who's coming to town, called Makeup Boy, whose whole brand is making fun of how ugly women naturally look and creating tips to fix their flaws. Penny is not impressed by this. She finds curvy James Charles's fame inexplicable. If he can become a star over this, why can't she over something equally stupid? So she posts an inane video of her cleaning Sugar Mama's dentures to social media and gets a sponsorship deal.
I made a video of me cleaning your dentures to prove a point to my friends that anybody can get followers, and I was right.
The Gross sisters pressure her into making another video, and that makes Penny's online star shine even brighter.
Today's episode of Growing Up Proud is called 2 Babies, 1 Diaper.
Oh no, okay. She uses her newfound platform to cancel Makeup Boy once and for all.
Penny Proud here. Since when are overbaked boys the authority on the way girls should look? I heard you a nigga. Haha. I heard you like little boys, nigga. James Charles is canceled, bruh.
Oof, go Penny. But she starts using the cancel option against anyone who even looks at her funny. Maya eventually uses this against her,
Toppling Uncle Ruckus after a record 600 weeks in the top spot. Penny Proud.
decrying her as a sellout and sharing footage of Oscar trying to capitalize on Penny's success in a less than above board way. Penny loses it all overnight, but runs into Makeup Boy, or Pinocchio, you could have fooled me.
Sophie, Miss Sophie. Miss Sophie, where are you? Thank you. I thought I lost her. Penny Proud?
Father, when can I leave to be on my own?
Who thanks her for snapping him out a bit. I really liked how both of these interpretations handled fame going to your head. The OG focused more on how your relationships can be endangered by a swollen ego and fame, and the reboot focused more on the warping of your character itself. Together, that's a nice holistic view of the perils of fame, and separately, they're both really good episodes. The reboot episode particularly has a lot of character. It's good fun. Damn, Alexa. Why is she juicy? I also really like the use of modern tech in the reboot, including thick Alexa. Witch hunt culture really is a problem, and kids in any era can and will use whatever brutality they can to tear down their peers. It's just how they are. Former playground bully or not, if you're an adult now, I'd wager you're more compassionate than you were at 14. I hope so. With that in mind, it's good to teach kids that bullying, no matter the thin veneer of righteousness on it, or whether it's online or offline, isn't acceptable or even sustainable for their own selfish interests. They need to learn that. You see what happens to Penny all the time. If you cultivate an audience based off harassing people, you've got an audience of people with hair-trigger tempers and few scruples. All it takes then is one little taste of your own medicine, one Maya to ruin your life and turn that audience against you. Bad trees bear bad fruit. Not only that, but Penny's friends ridicule and provoke her throughout the episode.
Wham! Makeup Boy got 50,000 in the time it took you to say bam!
It's made quite clear just how much pressure kids are under to be popular online. Similarly, I love how aggressively 2000s the original was. An R&B teen idol sensation is just such a throwback to the aesthetics of the time. Both episodes really captured a certain vibe from their respective eras in a way that I found endearing. All in all, both episodes were great, but I preferred the arc that the reboot followed. We got to see Penny go from looking down on an influencer who was looking down on others, acquire his power herself, use it to tear him down, and then get torn down in turn. Negativity begets negativity, and Penny learned a lot of valuable things about fame and social media by having all that power. She even explicitly takes ownership at the end.
I had you sent to boot camp, and I owe you an apology.
What did I tell you?
In fact, I owe all of you an apology. I was wrong.
Which is kind of reminiscent of the after-school special vibe of the original show. In Tweentown, Penny and friends sneak off to a teen nightclub run by
Al Roker!
But when Penny's friends catch them red-handed, they're all mortally embarrassed and frog-marched out of there. As punishment, Penny is put to work in a big way around the house.
You did all those things because you are on punishment, which comes from the Latin word punny, which means no movies, and the Latin word mint, which means I'm in it.
Which she does not appreciate. Al Roker then magically appears on the TV and computer in Penny's room, promising her a life free from her overbearing parents if she'd just sign here. And at first, it's great, all the adults are gone, but things quickly devolve in both Penny's life and the outside world.
I'm Pookie. In today's news, bad news. President Scooter and them have proposed a new party tag.
Plagiarism is when you use someone else's words or ideas.
It's clear that a life without adults apparently ordering you around is a life without order at all. Plus, it's not as much fun goofing off if there's nobody trying to stop you. Suddenly, none of the kids want a world without grown-ups anymore.
I miss my daddy too. Even though I have go and coach in public.
Penny tries to win her way out of the contract by challenging Roker at jump rope, but it's just not enough. And then, at the last second, when she's about to lose to him, Bobby crawls out of his cave. Bobby not having been spirited away by Al Roker means that Al's violated the terms of his contract. Not all the adults are gone. So it's all void anyway, and normalcy is restored. When You Wish Upon a Roker has Penny trying to have a nice romantic evening with her boyfriend Kareem. No thanks to her dad, who is ruining both the show and the mood.
Wait a minute. What are they doing with those funny wigs on? There were no black founding fathers. This ain't accurate.
I don't care what they tell you in school. Cleopatra was black.
Al Roker can't help but overhear Penny grumbling to herself about how embarrassing parents are, and promises to grant her wish of being able to move out away from these dorks. We then get to see university versions of all the crew, and they have a lot of fun with it.
Did anyone give you permission to speak, Acorn? Huh?
No, big sister, too cute. Better than you. Clap back, knick-knack, paddywhack, say what, say.
That's right.
Everyone is settling into early adulthood exactly as you'd expect them to. However, university life proves too much for Penny and the gang.
You've been evicted? For what? Failure as a human being?
Penny tries her best to stick it out, but just ends up incurring more and more debt.
I have $30,000 in credit card debt.
Thanks to not only her lavish lifestyle, but also to Al Roker's cruelty. Oscar takes the same Al Roker deal, however, once he finds out what happens to Penny, and ages down so he can come and rescue her. The two return together to the right place and stage of life. A fun thing about these episodes is that the reboot references its 2000s counterpart really directly.
Hey there, Penny. Long time no see. How long you been in middle school now? 20 years?
And they do it in a good-natured way too. Seeing these two episodes back to back also shows a pretty charming evolution from 2000s Penny to Louder and Prouder Penny. Although both canonically 14, the reboot Penny looks and acts like a slightly older kid than the first iteration did. In Tweentown, Penny wishes for a world without grown-ups so that she and her peers can have ultimate free reign.
Nobody gets told what to do. Nobody gets embarrassed.
Whereas in When You Wish Upon a Roker, Penny wishes to be a grown-up, so that she and her friends can have ultimate free reign. Similarly, the less mature Penny of the original show eventually caves and wants to go back on her contract with Al Roker because she misses her parents.
I miss them too!
And is in a position where she needs the authority that her parents would normally wield in order to fix things at home. In the reboot, she wants to revert to normalcy more because of the pressures of adult life.
I'm out of here.
But what about us?
See you in 4 years. Probably still be a sophomore.
Both times, though, Penny is the last person to crack because of her endearing manic stubbornness. The original show is kind of as you'd expect in terms of a world without adults. It's a little Bugsy Malone-ish, but without the cool noir aesthetic. The reboot goes way into seeing how all of Penny's crew grows up when they also opt into Al Roker's deal. Zoe gets the glow-up she deserves, and the others age into not just bigger versions of themselves, but believable adult versions of themselves. Except Maya's actually charming.
We can even save the world! I'm sorry. I only know how to talk with it.
I also like that both Proud brothers got to take turns saving Penny. Bobby by being completely incompetent and just kind of there.
Come on, God, bring my mama back so she can make me a snack.
And Oscar getting a win for once by being really quite badass. Badass? I've been around too many Americans and Northerners, I can't say arse anymore. Speaking of Oscar getting wins, he's portrayed in such an adorable dorky dad way in the reboot. The original show has the parents being tough but completely fair because it's not good for a child to sneak out. But the reboot just has Oscar be wildly embarrassing, kind of for understandable reasons. Penny seems to imply it's the same for Black Americans.
Maya, I've got 2 black parents. I don't have any rights.
But as someone with African parents, I could see my dad doing this if I were 14 and on a date.
Oh, God.
It feels a little unfair to pit these episodes against each other because they feel so much like a pair, but the reboot gets it this time. Good job.
Good answer.
A person who doesn't understand his past won't have a future.
Forgetting the lessons of history ensures that these atrocities will happen again. Now, if you excuse me, I have to put on this negligee and bring Papa his whiskey.
I Had a Dream has Penny and co. given a history assignment to go away and research one significant black figure in American history and have a go embodying them and what they're all about. The kids aren't 100% in the spirit of honouring their country's greats though, because wandering the halls they decide to give the school janitor some unnecessary grief. Only Penny slips and hits her head.
And don't you know I slipped on pee-pee and broke 2 vertebrae which had to be fused together?
And on waking finds herself transported to a 1950s version of her school. Suddenly nobody knows her anymore and the natural order of things is all topsy-turvy.
Zoe, is this
meatball mother
Color girl giving you problems? Who you calling colored? Is this a Black History Month skit and I wasn't told? Black? Who you calling black? You!
She manages to find a connection in Zoe, however, and through that humanizes herself to all the people looking down on her at school for being black, and the classroom is united again. The whole experience really gives her a new appreciation for all the black heroes in American history and all the strides race relations have made, and after rallying the fellow kids, she gives the I Had a Dream speech to a crowd of segregationists outside the school. Turns out it really was a dream that she had though, but the lesson sticks with her. The main plot of Juneteenth begins similarly to its older counterpart, being mired in history, with the whole town being excited to honour their founder, Christian A. Smith. The Lebitovitz-Jenkins household in particular is abuzz, because Barry is a direct descendant of the founder. Unfortunately though, his daughter Maya learns that the founder had some less than gentle words for the black inhabitants of the town post-emancipation.
The Negro doesn't have a day.
I wish every day were Negro Day.
She tries to draw attention to this, especially after she sees what turns out to be the ghost of a slave girl. Maya heads a protest at the unveiling of a statue dedicated to Christian A. Smith to try to bring his history to the town's attention properly. It doesn't work though, with Wiz Kelly getting all the kids jailed for rioting. Then unspecified events happen and they're all out of jail a month later. Were they there the whole time? The town gets renamed to Emilyville in honor of the ghost slave girl. Something that jumps out to me right away about the original show is this moment.
So, how do you guys like my outfit? Cool. You decided to try with Sticky? No!
Notice how there's no weird alienation of Zoe in the original show. No
Ally Zoe.
No Zoe being written to lose her voice when slavery is brought up in the debate. She's just there, a kid learning history. Barry and family are excited to be connected to the town's history at first, and this was fine as a stepping off point. The fantastical is also found in the reboot through the ghost Emily. Feels in the same ballpark as the original show's brand of fantasy. To be honest, this is an element of both that I don't really like. If you're going to tackle such a weighty, grounded topic, then the fantasy feels a little out of place. But the original show's message was by far and away better here. Things were bad, and now they're better, but not perfect, so let's learn from history to keep moving forward. The reboot's message stands in stark contrast. Things were bad, now they're still bad, so let's be angry about the past.
Pretending something didn't happen doesn't make it go away.
I know that.
Staying angry about things that happened to your ancestors, again, not your trauma, not your parents' trauma even, is not a healthy state to maintain. And I don't mean feeling human indignation at the injustices of the past, I mean being angry like it's happening to you and claiming it for yourself. The middle ground between pretending it never happened and staying angry forever about other people's suffering is recognizing the atrocities and blessings of the past, which is something the original show does in both highlighting segregation, an atrocity, and going to great lengths to name all these inspirational figures in Black American history, each of them blessings. The reboot doesn't mention anyone inspirational outside of the context of the cruelty they endured, which would be fine if not also mired in this idea that nothing has improved. My grandparents got married in a world where many places, including the country next door, didn't allow unions like theirs.
No, don't do it! I'm a virgin.
For decades. Can you really say in 2025 we have nothing to celebrate in this regard? The teachers in both also behave differently in a way that summarizes the disparity in quality that sometimes crops up between the original show and the reboot, especially in matters of sociopolitics. Compare this.
Oh, no it isn't.
Yes it is.
No it isn't.
Yes it is.
No it isn't.
Yes it is.
No it isn't.
Oh, yes it is.
She's adopted!
To this.
But I agree. Black History Month has fallen into a rather predictable pattern.
Does that mean we're not gonna have George Washington carve peanut butter cookies?
Of course we will, Miss Jones. Some things you just don't change.
Although Miss Brady is perhaps more similar to the fantasy version of the 50s teacher/janitor character than anyone.
Conniption time.
What is going on here?
Well,
Silence!
Something that both the reboot and the original have in common is the sentiment that it's the right thing to stand up against injustice. But the reboot falls flat in this because the injustice in question is so divorced from reality that it comes across as just a weird oppression fantasy.
The Republicans.
Rather than a lesson in the real suffering in history, or an uplifting message that even the young can effect positive change in impossible circumstances. This is to do a disservice to actual prejudice, past and present. In fact, the ending of the reboot episode Juneteenth doesn't really exist. We just cut from the jail to Maya's speech. Huh? How is injustice quashed? How can young people do something positive? Whatever, leave that stuff to your ancestors who basically didn't accomplish anything anyway, right? Just get arrested. Doesn't matter why, it's all the same thing, all the same fight.
You walk away! You don't hear me say
The last original Proud Family episode we're going to compare against the reboot is called... Okay, I can say this. Ain't nothing like the real thingy, baby. God. So Trudy wants the baby's birthday party to be extra special, sparing no expense. Penny has the bright idea to get popular children's entertainer Thingy to appear. Not a costume, but the real Thingy. Only Oscar runs into the real Thingy at the filming set with Penny when they try sneaking in, and they're a little friendlier with each other than Penny would like.
Daddy?
Penny, there you are. I want you to meet an old of mine.
Oscar tries to impress upon Penny that this needs to be a secret, making her suspicions even worse.
Don't tell your mama about us running into Deborah today. I want it to be a surprise, promise?
Penny and friends investigate, however, and once it seems irrefutable that Oscar is cheating on Trudy with Thingy, she persuades her not to come to the party with threat of disease. However, Thingy does turn up in the end and reveals that her and Trudy used to be uni roommates, which explains all of Oscar's secrecy and sneaking around. He just wanted to surprise his wife with a visit from an old friend. Penny learns not to jump to conclusions. The reboot episode, End of Innocence, is about the gang's history of Disney princess parties, the pageantry.
You are dumb! It's not hard.
The goofing off, it's all a grand tradition celebrating their closeness as a group. But they get distracted when the hot new celebrity actor Noah is in town and visits the school. He's so hot apparently that the other kids forget all about their boyfriends and drool over him instead, especially when he starts walking over, only for him to be interested in Zoe, the one girl who doesn't seem to care either way until he asks her out. Maya then drops this little bombshell.
Unexpected.
Not really. The way I hear, Noah's only into white girls.
Apparently she's learned this from her cousin, and the gang, minus Penny, latches onto the idea that Noah only likes Zoe for being white, which is just a huge insult to all of her other traits. Listen to what La Cienega says.
He asked me out because he likes me. You were there? Seriously? Has any other boy ever asked you out to a dance? Myron, 3 times. Does that mean he only likes white girls too?
Zoe is then essentially excommunicated for this.
See, Zoe, you just don't get it. I'm out.
However, by the end of the episode, Zoe approaches her ex-friends and says she dumped Noah over the unsubstantiated rumor and asks for their forgiveness.
This is why we girls have to stick together.
What? You started this!
I'm gonna go fucking ballistic, you fat-mouthed little stupid bitch.
End of Innocence is another episode I've devoted a video to by itself if you're interested in a more detailed look at how trash that one was. And it was trash, make no mistake. But what both of these episodes touch upon, the original show intentionally and the reboot unintentionally, is the power of hasty assumptions. The main difference is that End of Innocence doesn't resolve its rumors plot, and it feels kind of like that's because the writers didn't realize they were writing the kids as unreasonable. It felt like they were trying to write about racial preferences and dating as a topic, but unwittingly had the entire thing revolve not around that, but around taking playground myths as gospel and needlessly ruining friendships over it. There's almost an irony to it. Because the girls think Noah is racist for, allegedly, having a dating preference that they can't confirm, they decide to exclude Zoe for being white, the race Noah allegedly prefers, again, something she can't help being.
I don't need all this negativity in my life. I'm a dip.
And it's all based on a rumor Maya spread and the others assumed was true. The original show episode, on the other hand, shows how a hasty assumption can reasonably come about. I mean, Oscar is being a bit weird about this.
Get away.
Trudy was asking all kinds of questions.
You didn't tell her anything, did you?
Of course not.
Oscar Proud knows how to keep a secret. I bet you do.
And also that it isn't reasonable to act on it until you've talked things out properly. This isn't a complaint or an accolade either way, but I noticed too that Penny acts very differently in these two episodes. In the original show, about Thingy, Penny is the instigator, and Zoe even tries talking her down.
Penny, you can't do or say anything to your mom without absolute undeniable proof.
Explaining that taking hasty action on the basis of an assumption isn't the way to go. Whereas in the reboot, Penny has the spirit of a peacemaker and doesn't really do anything when her friend group blows up. She just cries. I mean, I'd cry if these were my friends too. She questions Maya in the group video call.
That's not Zoe's fault. Besides, we don't know that's true just because your cousin says so. He could be dating Zoe for Zoe. Have you guys ever thought about that?
But that's it. She's quite passive, whereas in the Thingy episode, Penny is in the driver's seat. I don't think it'll surprise you to hear overall, though, that I've got to give this point to the original Proud Family. Especially when put next to End of Innocence, you can really see how focused the message of the original show episode was, and how clearly it was communicated throughout. So, how does the reboot compare to the original Proud Family? The reboot in general is sillier, sometimes in a very negative way. I know that sounds weird to call it just silly, given that this is the same show that brought us unironic
and white supremacy
and showed a burning cross on screen.
Tea. Time to leave?
But I mean that it's silly in terms of how its main messages in certain episodes hinge on a premise or a philosophy that lacks any kind of sense, sometimes to a fantastical degree. For instance, when Maya finds out about the slave trading past of her town, it's a grand global conspiracy discovered through a magical delve into the internet itself, an evil cyber spider blocking the way. When Sugar Mama's father is sexist, he's only sexist towards her and has no reaction to all of this. When La Brea and the Boulevardes family at large has its bullying problem and then reconciliation, La Cienega is so chaotically brassy and evil that it's not clear how La Brea was the initial problem child, yet it's still presented as if La Brea has been unfairly terrorizing La Cienega for years, as opposed to just retaliating to her cruelty. Another big difference between the reboot and the original too is how consistent the quality is in the original. Some episodes of a show are always going to be better than others, sure, but the reboot is a very, very mixed bag. The original is of a more consistent quality and overall vibe. Some episodes handle more serious subject matter than others, but it always feels like you're watching the same show. That's not quite the way with the reboot. This,
Shuggy? You look like somebody stole your lunch money.
Is in the same show as this.
No, I do not understand anything about white fragility.
The original Proud Family also spends less time on character development throughout the course of one episode than the reboot does. Again, the quality of this and the extent to which the writers explore a character in the new show is super inconsistent, but when they do it well, I think it's really effective as a kids show teaching a useful life message. We spend a lot of time hearing Penny's changing thought processes in Bad Influencer, whereas in A Star Is Scorned, Penny's haughtiness just kind of happens, like she turns around in her chair suddenly in full diva mode. That's not necessarily worse, and of course it can be played for comedy, like it was in A Star Is Scorned, but I did prefer the reboot for this. And on a more shallow note, the reboot is just way prettier. The artists have a lot of fun drawing the characters, the colours aren't all muted like they are in the original, and there's this nice texture on everything that makes it look even better. I'm sorry if you're nostalgic for the original, but it sometimes looks like a smacked ass. Even the promo images. Jeez, Penny. Maybe you should listen to Makeup Boy.
Makeup Boy says wearing duct tape 5 minutes a day keeps the wrinkles away.
Every so often, the reboot tries recreating the ridiculous overdone expressions for comedic effect, but it doesn't really work with the more tame style. And speaking of the superficial, apart from Makeup Boy,
ooh, she likes you. You want her?
The voice acting is much more expressive and full of life in the reboot, even if Oscar has really funny line reads in the original. Sometimes as I'm editing this, I've rewatched a scene from the original Proud Family just for his vocal performance in it.
Boys football! Trudy!
Oscar, what are you yelling about now?
Trudy!
So, which is better? Overall, the original Proud Family wins out, but the reboot, as we've seen, isn't complete trash. It even has a leg up on the original from time to time. Given I've made 4 videos on the worst episodes of that Proud Family reboot though, you might be surprised to say I'd even show some of the reboot episodes to my own kids. Not all of them, but some are fine. Well, that's it for now. If you're still with me up to this point, thank you so much for sticking around. What do you think? Do you remember watching the original show as a kid? let me know in the comments. As always, even if I don't respond, I read every single one, and I appreciate every single one of you. That's right, even you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye!